Right, thank you very much for coming, everybody. This is a press conference called by the London Student Assembly, which is a coalition of quite a few campaigning education groups across London. And we were the people who called yesterday's march from ULU and organised it. We're going to be making some statements and then be taking questions. I'll introduce the panel. This is Claire Solomon, the president of ULU. This is Simon Hardy from the National Campaign Against Fees and Cuts, and this is Tharsin Jemi Konliki, who is a student who was kettled yesterday until midnight. My name's Sean Rilla-Ronchka. I'm chair of Birkbeck Student Union and on the national executive of the National Union of Students. I'll introduce Claire now to talk about the march and the success of the movement being mobilised yesterday. Sorry, did that on purpose.
That just fell down, didn't that?
Don't worry, carry on.
Okay. So yesterday, on the day of the tuition fee vote in Parliament, we saw tens of thousands of students coming to London to protest against this vote. I think yesterday was an absolute success. We saw the breadth of the movement, from young people to HE students to lecturers and workers from the RMT. Shows you that the amount of support that we have. It also shows you what we can do even as a small body. We didn't have the backing of the NUS for the demonstration, and yet on a budget of around £300 and with just a few days to build it, we brought out sort of 35,000 people to the streets of London, and that's clearly where people want to be, protesting against these decisions. Those that say that protesting doesn't work, I think, are wrong. We could see the splits already appearing in the government, in the coalition government, and in the Liberal Democrat Party, and even in the Tories, with a number of Tories voting against the fees. Obviously, we're massively disappointed that this has gone through, but I think we can easily defeat this. The number of people that were there yesterday will continue to fight. There are many more issues coming up. We have the cuts to the higher education funding, 80% cuts to that, 100% cuts to the arts and humanities funding, and of course the educational maintenance allowance, which is only £30 a week that our FE students receive, is going to be slashed, and we're going to be protesting about these cuts on Monday to defend EMA, and we expect again students and people from across society to come out, defend our FE students, and we'll also be sending the message that we are also protesting against all cuts to public services, public sector services.
Claire, can I ask Tom Palmer to...
Can we have questions at the end? Thanks. I'm going to just quickly talk about the politics of yesterday, and obviously we've seen the Liberal Democrat Party betray the trust that the voters put in them. They made personal pledges, every single Liberal Democrat MP, to vote against any raise in tuition fees. Clearly, we saw that many of them did not fulfil this promise. We did see a lot of rebellion. I think the Liberal Democrat Party are in great crisis. They're divided. It can only grow. I think they have actually disenfranchised a generation. We have this government disenfranchising 15, 16-year-olds, smashing their future. And I actually feel there's such now a disconnect between politics and young people that it will take a generation to heal this rift if these cuts go through. These fees will see, a fee rise will see a market in education, which will put poorer students off from going to university, will certainly make the divide between elite education and non-elite education even wider. It will drive standards down at lower level institutions, and it will see a further division in an already divided education system. The abolition of the EMA is an absolute act of vandalism that will see those who should be going to college and learning turning to other means of supporting themselves. I think what the government has done yesterday is a deeply sad day for education and could change the face of education forever. But we have hope. We're going to talk about the next steps later, but talking about the police actions yesterday, I'd like to introduce Simon.
Thank you. I think yesterday is a lesson for the government that if you push people too hard, they start to push back. The scenes that we are witnessing in Britain today are caused by the fact that we have an illegitimate government, which is packed with liars. Both the Liberal Democrats have broken pledges, of course, in terms of the tuition fees, but the Tories themselves promised before the elections they would not scrap the education maintenance allowance, and that is what they are now doing. There is a growing class divide in this country, best personified by the fact that the cabinet is packed with millionaires and the streets are packed with young working class college students who are fighting to keep their £30 a week education maintenance allowance so they can continue to access college and education. And an absolutely outrageous, out of control police force. The Metropolitan Police yesterday tried to criminalise that demonstration beforehand by talking about violent minorities of youths, and then on the day itself began kettling people, baton-charged people, horse-charged people, injured, hospitalised several protesters, and then when they kettled them until well into the night, denying them access to food, water, and even in some cases medical care. I want to be clear that what we are seeing are not acts of violence by demonstrators, they are acts of resistance against what people see as an illegitimate government which does not represent their interests. There is a growing democratic deficit in this country, best exemplified by the fact that the National Union of Students has over the last few years been lobbying governments, and we have lost on every single major issue that we took up with them, including the scrapping of the grant system, the introduction of loans, fees, top-up fees. So that avenue is not working for students, and then when they take to the streets with more radical forms of protest, the government says that they're not going to listen to that either. And that is why people are so angry today, and that is why these demonstrations, rather than getting smaller, are getting larger and are going to keep growing well into the new year.